Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have Ruth McIver with me today. So, Ruth is a Dublin born, Melbourne based writer represented by Story Factory, and she completed a PhD at Curtin University in 2019, where she wrote her debut crime fiction novel, I Shot the Devil. And I've got my copy there, if it shows okay.
Yeah.
I Shot the Devil was awarded the Rochelle Prize and the Affirm Press Mentorship Award. In the same year, her first unpublished manuscript, Nothing Gold, which was selected for Perfect Pitch in Bloody Scotland 2014, was runner-up in the inaugural Banjo Awards with HarperCollins. Beside from researching with writing true crime-inspired fiction and memoir, Ruth likes music, podcasts, drinking too much coffee, overbonding with other people's dogs, and pining for the ocean. So thanks so much, Ruth, for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thanks
Just
for
what,
having me.
just wondering if you want to start off by telling people about I Shot the Devil.
Yeah. So Ash of the Devil is, I guess, a literary crime thriller that's set in the year 1994 and 2010, respectively. It's set in the US. And it starts with a journalist character, a flawed journalist character called Erin Sloan. And she's tasked with going back into investigating an alleged satanic thrill kill murder in her hometown of Southport, Long Island, which is a fictional town. And as she goes back into the past, into a crime which she's actually intimately involved with, she starts to uncover a great conspiracy. And as she uncovers more truths, the threat to her life escalates.
And could you tell everyone what was the first idea you had for this book?
Yeah, I actually started writing the book as a memoir.
Okay.
So the kind of conceit of the journalist going back into the past, which a lot of crime fiction novels use that. It was kind of a way for me to explore my own homecoming in a way, because I'd grown up in Long Island in a small town in Nassau County. And I hadn't been back. And I actually went back after I wrote my second draft, and after the book had won, well, the manuscript had won the Rochelle Prize, and, I'd already had that accepted. So I wrote it all from memory. So it was sort of like me, in a way, revisiting reconstructing the town that I grew up in. So that's kind of how it began. And then I realized I didn't want to write a memoir per se. I just wanted to kind of use that concept. And then it kind of went from there, and then the story developed. So obviously I used a lot of true crime ideas, and that kind of, part of my research fed into that, and then it kind of just all formed this completely different, cohesive narrative.
And this is your debut novel.
Mm-hmm.
Could you tell us a bit how you got to write your first novel, and as being a writer, something you thought you wanted to do when you were growing up?
Oh, 100%. Like, I mean, there was, besides from like wanting to be Nadia Comaneci for a little while, perfect except I couldn't, because I couldn't do the horse. Like I'd run and then I'd stop. And I was like, damn, I can't do that. But dance and gymnastics, and I love singing and stuff, but really, truly, like I was 8 and I was like, writing and drawing, illustrating my books, and all my books were like based on my Cabbage Patch dolls, like committing murders and but they were really, really grim and really dark. I was obsessed with stranger danger too, because I don't know about you, when I grew up in the 80s in WA, it was like huge. We were just, I think they were trying to protect us, so they just made us terrified.
Yeah.
That there was kidnappers everywhere. So a big theme in my early years. So I started out always, it was always my plan, was always my goal, but it actually took me a really long time to get published. So I think that, like, while I had this complete, I was so driven to do it. It was like all I wanted to do. But I got really stuck on my first manuscript. So obviously with my debut novel, it was a different story. I wrote it really quick. I had a lot of green lights. With my first book, it just took me forever. It was like 10 years pretty much. And I kept falling into these traps of like over researching and I didn't really understand how to stop doing how to handle navigating like plot holes, like, so I would just kind of quit. And I sort of thought these problems were unique to me, which is kind of crazy because I was around other writers. I think I was just really insecure about the book I was writing and the fact that it was a procedural crime novel. And I've since written something that's in that vein, and I found it so much easier this time around. I think it was just because I really just felt like I had to know everything. So it was a real rookie mistake. It was like I have to get it, almost like I have to be a cop. So it was like I really over labored on that one, and it's a terrible thing to do. And I think also when you don't have more than one project going on, I think you can end up getting really disappointed too and very deflated and stuff. So it took me a really long time. And obviously there was a lot of like little wins and things that happened. And then, just nothing would transpire. And then obviously things kind of all came to a head in 2018 for me because I had all these wins. And then publication followed kind of quite quickly from there. But it wasn't a seamless, like, I think, it might appear from the surface that it was like that, but, there was an invisible 10 years of, a lot of work, a lot of disappointment, and
So,
a lot of
so there were a lot of like rejections and that.
Oh, the amount of rejections just crashing, and even with Bloody Scotland in 2014, I went there and I was so excited about that. And I really, I guess I'm a pretty sensitive person, and I mean, I never quit. That was the thing. Like, I would get crushed and I would take time to recuperate, and I never quit. But instead of kind of, I don't know, it was sort of like I really internalized the critique. I guess there was a part of me that always believed and knew. But I think I always sort of thought, oh, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with my manuscript, rather than like, you haven't found the right audience, or it's not the right time, or it just needs more work. And so, I do some developmental stuff with writers, and I always try to like really impart that, like that these are problems that everybody encounters. They're roadblocks,
So how did you keep going over all that time? Did you have anyone who was encouraging you to keep going as well?
Well, I think everyone around me, I think at various points, people were sort of like, this is making you miserable. But at the same time, like, I'd say my really close friends, I have a lot of close friends who are writers, they knew that that's what I wanted to do. And, some of them really believed in my, ability. And say, for example, like my PhD supervisors were really, really supportive and helpful. My dad's always been really encouraging and that sort of thing. I think there were points, especially like I'd say like 2014 and 2018 in particular, where, I mean, just in terms of like money, like, facing in 2014, like facing near homelessness, in terms of like income and stuff. And that was really, really, really tough. And then in 2018, I had a couple of setbacks and rejections that were really big. And I just felt I was at that point of like, I think maybe now, I'm nearing the end of my road. And then that's when everything kind of happened.
Yeah, and it all fell in place then.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it's sort of like, also I got really ill in 2010. I developed really severe ME and chronic fatigue. And to the point that it made it impossible for me to work. So I'd been working like sometimes I was working 4 days a week, and then I would do an extra day freelance, and then I was writing on top of that, and then I would try to be doing all these other projects. So I had a big kind of that really sort of stopped my kind of momentum. But it also meant that my work hours the amount of income that I could get wasn't huge. And so like I also had like limited income and stuff. So I had all these challenges and stuff. And then I think as I began to recover and get better, and learn to balance things a little bit better, things started to, you know, also get a bit easier.
Yeah, that's really interesting, like what you said about your health and everything. I'm wondering if you find writing energizes or exhausts you.
Well, it's weird. I often think of like when I've written a manuscript, I feel like, you know, Mario Brothers, when you kind of like get really low on and you need to like eat coins and stuff and like you lose your life. So you need to replenish your life. I think every manuscript's taken something from me. It's like really decimated me on a level. And I felt like, I'm like, this was just like, I don't know what to do now. Like I just feel so like I've been smashed on the rocks. And I think also psychically there's a huge kind of toll, especially when you work in really dark material. But it's also enlivening and it's exciting and it's like it is the thing that brings me to life. And it's like it's my passion and my joy at the same time. But it does take a huge toll. And I think psychologically when I was writing this book, because there are a lot of dark themes in it, I began to get really depressed and I, you know, started losing weight and I was really, really stressed out. And then I kind of wrote my way through it. So it was sort of like bibliotherapy, which I think it was really important for me on a psychic level to actually do that, I think, to write the book, although it was harrowing, but I guess, you know, it had that outcome. And I think I hoped that somehow kind of transpired to the reader too, like if they could kind of get that same kind of catharsis.
Yeah. And we've got a few people watching, which is really great. Just reminding those watching, if you do have any questions for Ruth, please type them in comments and I'll read them out. Wendy is wondering if you're writing something new at the moment.
Yeah, I am. I can't really discuss it, but it's an American. It's a bit of a secret at the moment. It is American, and it's killing me at the moment. It is killing me. I'm at 25,000 words, and I'm just deleting, going back, and then I just can't get past the 25,000 mark. I have also written a novella in between, and I've got another novel that I've got sort of on the side.
Yeah.
That's set in the US, Perth and Bali.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, they sound interesting. Kelly is wondering if you have a favourite author that inspires you.
I am pretty obsessed with Megan Abbott, the American crime writer. She's got a new book out at the moment, The Turnout, and I think she's so accomplished and so versatile, and you know, her like really noir, sort of early kind of Hollywood kind of novels are just exquisite. And then she does this kind of other thing where she writes in this kind of like YA kind of almost like characters, but creates this kind of really adult mystery. And she's just so brilliant. She can do kind of anything. And then there's also my I'd say my second favorite, just a different kind of favorite, is Karen Slaughter, who is just, you know, so prolific. Yeah. She just never kind of she just always hits a home run, you know. It's always really perfect. And I just read her actually I was listening to it on audiobook, and it's the same narrator that narrated my book, and that was like one of my dream moments, to hear the same voice that read, you know, Karen Slaughter's book as that read mine. I was just like, huh. I think that's False Witness. It's so incredible. She's really going on the cutting edge, and she almost just pushes over that mark with commercial fiction, just by like the themes and whatnot that she covers, but she can kind of do it, and she does it so well.
And we're wondering as well what you like reading, and Kelly's wondering if you might have a book recommendation for a must-buy for Christmas.
Yeah, so there are a couple of books that I and these are actually Australian crime authors. So Laura Elizabeth Willett, who was actually a guest on this channel.
Mm.
She wrote a really amazing book recently, The Newcomer, and I just love everything that she does. I think she's such an accomplished writer.
Yeah.
And Tanya Chandler, All That I Remember of Dean Collar, they're both scribe.
Yeah.
Both amazing authors, and I think that's Tanya's third book, and maybe the same for Laura. But yeah, both doing really interesting stuff, and really interesting stuff with the format and the genre. Obviously, as I said, False Witness, incredible. I just, I can't recommend Karen Slaughter enough. The Turnout by Megan Abbott, that's her latest book. And The Last Guest by J.K. Murray, who's also a Hachette author,
that's a good
and
one.
a Kiwi. And it's set in New Zealand, which is, I think, his first one was set in New Zealand too.
Yeah. No, they're great recommendations, thanks. And also, don't forget, people watching, if you are going to buy a Christmas book, I Shot the Devil as well.
Oh yeah, my own book, please buy that.
When you're writing, do you know the ending of your book at the start?
I think subconsciously I know the ending, but I don't usually consciously know it. And that's because I'm not a plotter. And I'm probably having a really big problem with this novel now that I'm writing, because there needs to be, for me, I kind of need to have a loose structure, and then the ending kind of comes to me. But I don't even have a loose structure. I have this idea and these themes, and I'm just trying to do it in a different way. So like I'm a kind of like plot pantser, and at the moment I'm just pantsing the whole time, and that's actually harrowing. And I think I need to maybe rethink my whole existence right now. But yeah, I kind of like, I feel like I sort of know it on a level. Like I know roughly what will happen, but I don't know who will do what. I sort of know. It's often with the villain. And I think also because, I write a lot of true crime inspired stories. Sometimes I know the ending because it's roughly based on that, but I don't know who the actors in my fiction will be to do that and what the mystery will be. There'll always be like multiple levels of things going on. So, yeah.
And what comes to you first? Is it the plot, the characters, or the location?
Location is always my main thing. I think that's my main thing. It always starts places like the character. And I'm very, very attached to place. And that's why I found it's funny because the novella I've written is partly based in Melbourne. It's the first thing I've ever written in Melbourne. And I've been in Melbourne since 2006, but I just haven't been able to set anything here. It's really peculiar. It's like, it's always like Perth or the States. And I think, I obviously I did set something in Bali, but I've spent a lot of time there. But, I spent longer in Melbourne. It's really odd. But yeah, I have to have a kind of really strong connection with place. That's like huge for me. Yeah.
And what do you find the most difficult part of your writing process?
The fact that I don't plot it. I think also, look, I mean, I think my issue is that, and it's a strength as well as a weakness, is that I've always had a bit of a kind of chaotic brain, and I'm a bit ADHD, and I tend to kind of like go into these really huge kind of like everything gets connected and these like multi-universes, and it gets really complex, and then I just end up a bit tangled in my own web, and I have to pare things back. So I would like to be more simple in terms of like just going, just do this and then fill this out and then focus more on this thing, or just like do, spend more time on scene or character. But I think for me, it's sort of like I became a writer that became really, really plot orientated and plot obsessed, even though I don't plan it. And I don't want to be that writer. So that's what my least favorite thing about my writing is. But maybe I just need to lean in and embrace it. So
yeah. And Kelly wonders if COVID has had any impact on your writing schedule.
Uh, well, I mean, obviously I have a lot more time in terms of no socializing. I also have moved out to the country, so that has also, and that was part of COVID too. So that was a COVID fallout. So that made it so that I was pretty much just writing all the time. I had a huge deadline too. COVID's had more of an impact on my concentration, and I think a lot of writers have said that. And a lot of writers are having trouble reading. It's what I'm hearing too, because it's really impacted me. It's meant that I've listened to a lot more audiobooks actually than reading paper books. So I'm getting that back though. It's definitely, I think, you know, we can't really know what COVID's kind of done to our to our brains really, because you know we're living in, you know, unprecedented times. So I think it's been, you know, quite a shock to the system. But it's definitely in terms of schedule. You know, I was working from home anyway, so hasn't impacted me in that. But in terms of lifestyle, for sure.
Yeah. And what about promoting your book?
Oh yeah, I mean that has been really rough because. I was coming out here. My plan was to leave in October, and I was going to do, so obviously I was going to launch the book in IRL, and in September, going to go to Sydney, going to go to Brisbane, and then I was going to go to Perth and do a tour. You know, I was hoping to do an event with Dervla McTiernan, so it was really exciting. And all of that, you know, has not happened. I never had a real launch. I mean, I had an IRL launch. I mean, a virtual launch. Sorry. Yeah. It's been very difficult. There's a lot of disappointments because of that, and obviously the hand sale is so important. But just even the things like going picking up your book in the shop. So it's been really weird. I wanted to go in and you know, sign the book and stuff, but it's like it's almost made me a bit shy and a bit funny because it's just like all of that happened in isolation for me. So basically I was just out here on my own, you know, kind of dealing with that and living alone in a really isolated spot. So it's been really rough, and you know, I'm really looking forward to being able to go to events and, you know, and I feel so bad for all writers that are in the same and before me and after me, because, you know, it's really impacted things like, because, you know, everyone's waiting for their turn, and then, you know, things have been shifted around, and, you know, and it's just people haven't gotten the publicity that they really deserve, and so.
And have you got anything in person lined up at the moment?
Yeah, so I'm going to Bad Festival in Sydney, which is really exciting. So that's real life. I still kind of can't believe it. That's on the 2nd of December, and it's a couple of days, so I'm going to get to see some other authors speak, and I'm just excited about that. It's so exciting to be able to meet other writers and chat to them, and then you know, I think next year there'll be some other events which will be really cool. But yeah, that's the big one, and that's the first IRL event that I'll have.
No, that's great. Kelly also wonders if you had any input in the title and cover design.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I went to RMIT and studied there, and we were told you'll never get to choose, like no one will ever let you do that. And I've heard varying things, but for me, I actually was really surprised. I had a total control over the title, and they wanted me to be really happy with the cover. The cover changed quite a bit, which was surprising to me. And I know that I like I said, I studied at RMIT. I understand certain things. So I know there's a whole science behind covers, and there's always like themes, and like obviously if one book does really well in a particular way, it's kind of like coded like that. So it's really interesting. I kind of didn't really want to be given the responsibility of making that choice in a way, because I know how important branding is, but I was really happy. Like, I mean, if you look at this book,
Yeah, it's a great cover. Yeah.
it's really beautiful. And, you know, it's got, like, up close when you look at it, it's got these little drops of blood and stuff on it. And it's got this, like, one of the other things they included, the skull ring.
Yeah.
And that was really, really important for me because it's part of the book. But, yeah, I actually thought the title was really noir. And I thought, they're not going to like it. They're going to want to change it.
So that was your title?
Yeah, it was my idea. It was, you know, it was a song. I think when with the US, it will be different. It's a different market. And I think also shot is, you know, I think in Australia, obviously with gun laws and things like that, everything's a bit different. I think in America, it's different resonance. And, you know, I'm totally prepared for that, and I'll be prepared for a different cover and that sort of thing. But, yeah, I did get a lot more creative control than I thought I would, which is really great.
Yeah, no, that's great. And do you have a favourite place you like to write?
Actually, I'm very fond of writing when I have a kitchen table. I like that. I mean, I haven't had a study as such for about a year and a half now. I had a studio when I was in Melbourne. It really changes things to me when I go to a studio because there's nothing else to do. You can't distract yourself. I've been writing at home. I think I like to go and break it up. If I'm writing at home, I like to go and sit in a cafe for about an hour and a half or 2 hours because then I can just I know that I'm there. I have this dedicated time. And I also feel like when I'm in a library, for example, it's it's really serious. It's work. It's so, you know, this or that. But when I'm in somewhere around other people, when I can hear noise and whatever, it doesn't have that same kind of sort of sense of seriousness and pressure. So it sort of allows me to feel you know, I can relax and I'm doing something pleasurable rather than this is serious work, even though it is, but you have to kind of trick yourself, I think.
Yeah. Well,
that's how the kitchen table works.
Yeah, sounds like a good concept. Well, thanks so much for joining us. It's been great chatting to you.
Yeah, you too, Jackie.
Do you want to tell people how they can keep in touch with you?
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Roger's Trollop, which is a reference to Sylvia Plath. I'm not a trollop. Just a real trollop for a thesaurus or thesaurus, however you pronounce it. So that, I mean, you can look up Ruth McIver and it's on Instagram, but that's my handle. Or I'm at Twitter, and I'm pretty sure that's just Ruth McIver, at Ruth McIver, but I'm usually more on Instagram. Well, I'm on Twitter, but, you know, it's more fun on Instagram, I think. More pictures of my cat.
Yeah. Oh, we'll have to look out for your cat then.
Stevie, she's a superstar. Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, and thanks to everyone who joined in. We had some great questions. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you.